everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for Forge's coffee conversation this morning. This morning we have Jennifer Kramer with us. Am I saying that right? Kramer or Kramer?
You've got Kramer. You got it.
Okay, I've been debating it. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't want to trouble it because I know how I get with my name. I'm so excited to have her here today. She's going to be talking to us about her pre-vivor story, something that is growing, something that needs more awareness. And we're so grateful to hear her story today. So without further ado, Jennifer, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. I think this is such an awesome resource for so many. I guess I'll just go from the beginning. I grew up in Troy, Alabama, and went to college at University of Alabama and got a degree in healthcare management and worked in health insurance for over 10 years. So it's always been a path for me. Health is real important and something that I'm interested in. So this topic is so cool to me that there's medicine out there, that the genetic testing, which is something that we all start thinking about when we have loved ones who have been diagnosed with cancer. So I know one of the things that you said in the opening was the word pre-vivor. And that is something that I had never heard of until our conversation. So thank you for giving me that word. It's really cool. I looked it up, and I just think when we have words for things to describe what we're going through, it just helps. It helps open up the conversation. And the definition that I saw was pre-vivor, someone who has an elevated predisposition to being diagnosed with cancer due to risk running in through their family. And it even goes further, that it talks about, it also includes the journey and the struggles that they go through to navigate the distinction, because it is important that there's a distinction, because I did not and do not have cancer. So I think that's really important. You know, when I tell people I've had a mastectomy, I'm real clear with I had a preventative or prophylactic mastectomy.
Well, thank you so much. And yes, like having a word to what you're going through always just helps to make things clearer, right? Because
Yes.
It sucks to be going through something and you're just like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, I don't have a word for this. I don't know what it means. So thank you so much for providing a definition for those who might not be aware of what a pre-vivor is. So, and being a pre-vivor, what went through your mind as it relates to, okay, I want to get genetic testing, but like, what does this mean and why is this important to me? Because you might know of an aunt or know of a sister or know of a cousin who has breast cancer, right? But why is it important to get genetic testing? So kind of speaking to that in your particular journey, why was genetic testing important for you?
I had given a lot of thought about genetic testing because I had a father diagnosed with early onset frontal temporal dementia. And he actually passed away of that at age 66. And his neurologist said that genetic testing was available for that. And I remember thinking, I don't know if I want to know if I am predisposed to dementia. What would that look like for me? What could we even do if I tested positive for that? And so I really thought about and weighed that and ended up deciding not to do genetic testing. There's not a whole lot you can do to prevent it. There's some medication now, and I just think it's important to stimulate our mind and just read and learn things and eat well and stay healthy. So I had that thought of genetic testing in the back of my mind. And when my mom was first diagnosed with breast cancer, I did not think that much at that point about genetic testing until she was diagnosed the second time. And then her sister was diagnosed. And then her sister's daughter in her 30s was diagnosed. So I think it's very important to have those conversations with your physician. I have a wonderful GYN that would ask me questions, about family history. I think it's more protocol for them to do that now, but she kept genetic testing on the forefront, and actually handed me a card of a breast cancer surgeon and just said, when you're ready, here's someone that you could go to and have the testing done. And so I really thought about it, and I held that onto that card for months before I did anything. And then watching my cousin in her 30s with 4 children who really went through it, with chemo and radiation, and just watching her, I thought, and I have 2 kids. They are now 15 and 16. I have a son and a daughter. And I thought, why wouldn't I do this? Why wouldn't I do this? There is something I can do about this. If I do test positive, I have options. So I went and had the genetic testing, which, by the way, for me, was covered by insurance. My particular insurance plan, they have a formula. And so you answer certain questions about your history. And so I was approved to have that genetic testing covered, which I feel very fortunate to have that. As much as I had thought about genetic testing, I must say, when I got that phone call on an afternoon after 5 o'clock, and I'm sitting in the parking lot getting ready to go to my son's baseball game, and I get a call from the breast cancer surgeon telling me I did test positive for PAL-B2, which I had never heard of, and that she was going to go forward and send that information to my insurance company. I just remember hanging up going, what? Wait, what? As much as I had thought about genetic testing, not until I got that phone call did it really hit me. And that was in 2016. So it's been several years ago.
Yeah, and one thing that you said was just super important is family history.
Yes.
Right. Surprisingly, a lot of people don't even know that it runs in their family or that
Right.
it's genetic. So having those conversations with your physician and your family members, like,
right.
Hey, they have breast cancer. Do you know if, just any information about it? Talking can reveal a lot of gems that might directly affect you, right? Like,
right.
if something runs in your family, it's really important to know those things because now there are resources available to see if you're at a higher risk for something. So I think that is a really important takeaway, knowing that family history, so that if there is a genetic test that you can get to see what options you might have is really, really important. So unfortunately, you have members of your family to be diagnosed, and then that's when, the kind of onset happened. But I mean, in getting those results, I know you were just saying that, it didn't set in until, you got the phone call, like, oh my God, like it's genetic. I have genes.
Right. Even though we know that, even though you can look and say, oh gosh, and then I remembered my dad's mom had breast cancer, and then my grandfather had pancreatic cancer, which is linked to this PAL-B2. So, you feel it in your bones that, okay, something's going on here. Yeah. But you're right. It is. And we talked about this. Some people are more private in sharing their health information. But it's an important conversation, just like this one is, just like all the conversations that you all have.
Yeah, for sure. So after finding out, right? Like, so it's setting in at this moment, you've gotten the phone call, and I'm sure you were just kind of taken aback by it, that, oh my gosh, they're saying that I have this PALB2 gene. How did you kind of realize like what that meant? What emotions did you have, and how did you kind of move on to a step of contemplation? Like, okay, well, what do I do with this information? Like, what did that process look like for you?
It was a long process. I am definitely a processor. So I like information. So, it was a long conversation with my husband, with my mom. My mom lives in a different area. Let me just say, we are so fortunate in Birmingham to have all of these wonderful hospitals, physicians, resources, genetic counselors. So while my physician talked to me about genetic counseling, my mom, she didn't go down that route. And watching her go through cancer, not once, but twice, I felt like, okay, if she would have known this, maybe she would have had a double mastectomy. She didn't. She had a lumpectomy. And not to place blame or, go back and question her path. Her path is what it is. It really helped me be real clear on my path. And then I thought it was really important for me to let all my family know. And so that just spiraled into everyone getting genetic testing. And then one of my cousins, she was in her late 20s at the time, she found out she too had PALB2. And so, the finding it out, it's such a personal experience. For me, it made sense to go forward and have a double mastectomy. And I have to say, I was really surprised that my health insurance plan covered it, which is amazing. And that also, for me, having a background in healthcare, I thought, wow, they are really taking this seriously. If the health insurance plan is going to cover this preventative measure, wow.
Yeah.
So, there is a community out there. The more we talk, the more we realize that other people are affected by this. So I had several friends who were going through the same thing, some that had already had their preventative mastectomy. So that was huge help, just having them walk me through. And I like to do my due diligence. I got second opinions. I got genetic counseling. It's a process.
Yeah. It's not an overnight decision for sure.
It is not an overnight decision. No.
Yeah.
Because it's a major surgery.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm so glad that you did have a support system and people who could speak to this specific thing, right? Everybody might not have that.
Right.
A lot of people are just now learning that you can get a double mastectomy or any form of surgery prior to even having a diagnosis, just based on your genes and your risk. So that is so fortunate. You have people who could kind of give you some insight as to what their journey looked like in their pre-vivor stories. So what I know that you spoke a little bit about your mom's journey, right? Like her not realizing that this is a genetic thing and her cancer coming back that second time.
Right.
So is that the thing that kind of led you to make that decision on, I'm going to be proactive. And since I know that this is genetic, I'm going to lean towards a certain decision. Is that kind of what encouraged you to go ahead and make the decision?
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, I get.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
And then I can't talk if I get teary, so I'm going to zip that up. But I just think about the women going through chemo, and think about my cousin who had 4 kids, who was so sick. And I thought, okay, I can do something about that. And that feels good. That feels good to have power over that situation, in a situation that you do feel powerless. So I think there is power in knowledge, and it really was an easy decision for me. And I say that for me because I know I have other friends who are taking a different route. My cousin, who also tested positive for PAL-B2, she had not had kids yet. So, she wanted to have children and be able to nurse her babies. So even if you find out that you're positive for breast cancer gene, it just puts it on the radar. Then you're eligible to have mammograms more often. You can have ultrasounds of your ovaries, of your uterus. So it just brings that awareness for you and your physicians. So whether or not you choose to do what I did and have a mastectomy, it just brings it to the forefront because, fortunately for my mom, she was in an age bracket where she was going and having her mammograms, and they caught her cancer early, which is how she was able to just have a lumpectomy. So all of our paths look different. But for me, watching my family members, whenever I question, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I had the surgery. And then you go through the reconstruction, which is a whole nother process. I'm reminded of all the women going through chemotherapy and just the struggles that go along with cancer. It just verifies what my decision to have a double mastectomy was right for me.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. Like, everybody's decisions look different, right?
Yes.
And once you get the phone call, it does not mean you have to schedule surgery tomorrow.
Right.
You have time to decide what's best for you and talk through that with your family, talk through that with your healthcare team. I'm so glad that you brought that up. Oftentimes when we get devastating news or just news that, could change our lives, we immediately want to take action.
Right.
We immediately want to beat something to the punch. We immediately
Yes.
want to over something. We want to just
Yes.
get through it. Just like, okay, well, what do I need to do?
Right.
But you might not make the best informed decision for yourself, for your family, all of these other different things. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that is something that people should consider whenever something happens in their life and something might be drastic. Take the time to process it the best that you can before making a decision that is going to probably change your life and maybe those around you too.
Right.
So after everything, all of the smoke has settled in a way, after surgery, how did things change for you? After you made the decision, what were things like? Or is there anything that you particularly wish you would have known prior to the surgery, or, how did you feel afterwards?
A mastectomy is a major surgery. So I'm a very active person, and it slowed me down, obviously. I had a friend who was going through breast cancer and about to have a mastectomy. And she called me to ask me what it was like. And we just talked about the having this steel bra on, because there's a process of after the mastectomy and then going through reconstruction where they put expanders in, and it's literally expanding that breast pocket, and it is uncomfortable and it is painful. But through that all, I never doubted my decision. that was a whole nother conversation with a plastic surgeon going through the reconstruction. I don't know how much detail you want, but
you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, you're good. It's just, that's such a huge decision. Oftentimes here at Forge, we'll have clients, and that's something that they think about, not necessarily the ins and outs of it, right? But, it's such a huge decision. So I know it's always going to be a process throughout this entire process, every decision, every doctor visits, every session of treatment. So it's always good to know that, after the fact, are we processing this in a healthy way? How do we feel about this after? And if we're having certain feelings, how do we address that? So I'm so glad that you still had that momentum afterwards, just your support system and all of those different things. That makes such a huge difference, right? Because you can literally look at somebody, or you can literally think of somebody close to you, and you can say, okay, I'm okay with my decision. I'm at peace with my decision because it was best for me, because I think that I took the time that I needed to make the best decision for me, and you didn't make it rationally. So yeah, you're good. I don't have to know what day you went to get the surgery and all of that good stuff. But yeah.
I mean, things I had never really thought of are implants, breast implants. I was somebody who was flat chested. So that was a huge change. And I had no idea how many options were out there. So for me, again, I go back to knowledge is power. And that's for me. I like to know all of my options. And I had one friend who really didn't. She wanted somebody to tell her what to do. And she didn't question anything. And she just did it. And that's what worked for her. I liked hearing all of my different options. I didn't know this. Your implants can be put over your muscle versus under your muscle. Those are questions I never even thought to ask. So, I just, again, I think it's important to reach out to those, if you are on the fence trying to make this decision, to talk to somebody who's gone through it, ask questions, and find resources like Forge that are here to support women, and find physicians who will listen to you and have that conversation with you, because it's a lot of decisions.
Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. I'm sure this story is going to help somebody who might be on the fence. Somebody has tested positive for a gene and they don't know how to feel. They don't know what it means, because it's a lot of information on a bunch of different sheets.
Right.
So they might get the call, they might get the documents, and they're like, I don't know what to do with this information. I don't know what to do with my body. So I know that this conversation is going to kind of help give somebody some insight as to, how they can make some steps forward in their own journey in a way that's best for them. Do you have any additional things that you would love to leave our viewers with as it relates to your pre-vivor story, or somebody who might be in the beginning phases of their pre-vivor journey?
I guess, the biggest takeaway for me is, and this is true just in life, is community. I think community is huge. I think support is huge. We are so blessed with living in a community where there are so many options, so many wonderful physicians. I just, to seek out someone and ask questions and go to those people who have been through it. That just support is huge. My mom, she is more, we talked about this, my mom is more private. And when the second time she had breast cancer, she really reached out. I think she even put it on social media. And just the influx of support and love that came to her just lifted her up. And she said, I wish that I would have talked to more people about it. So I think that was my biggest thing, to have the conversation, to reach out to people for support. It's important no matter what you're going through, postpartum depression, mental health issues, just reach out.
And I can't agree with you more. Reaching out, you just never know who might be sitting next to you, who
Right.
can give you a little bit of encouragement or insight or just comfort. You just never know. So reaching
Right.
out can help anybody in any place. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story with us. I have enjoyed talking with you. I hope to see you again really, really soon. And I hope that you have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. And I've loved talking with you as well.